Field in terms of perhaps a performance too far, but maybe a real litmus test of what Mick McCarthy's done to this side, that it was a point won rather than 3 points lost. So yeah, it wasn't a classic by any means, but it was still a point on the board. And now the Bluebirds have had a long rest. They had the extra day because they played on the Friday. So whereas they were maybe undone by the schedule in the weeks preceding that game against Huddersfield, they've now had the extra day. They're well rested. Still have a few injury problems, which I'm sure we'll go on to in a moment, Ash. But you're absolutely right. There's a chunk of 3 games now before the international break. All amongst teams that can affect our position in the table. Of course, you throw the South Wales derby into the mix as well. It's a really interesting 7 days.
City still riding that crest of momentum, though, still 11 unbeaten, despite the disappointment of that draw at Huddersfield a week ago. Put themselves back in the playoff picture. Watford, they've moved further forward from what looked like being a top 6 season for them when we last met back in December. They're now the automatic contenders we thought they would be at the start of the season. In terms of the team, and John's just touched on it there, Cardiff do make 2 changes. They're the expected changes, the changes enforced largely at the wing-back positions. Perry and G comes back in on the right-hand side, having missed that game last Friday night at Huddersfield. So Tom this afternoon drops to the bench. And on the left-hand side, Kieran Brown is given his opportunity. He, of course, came on for the injured Joel Bagan with a separated shoulder in that game, who himself was deputising for the stricken Joe Bennett. So let's go Kieran Brown heavy, I guess, John. It's a big opportunity for Kieran this afternoon, but you do envision that this is probably a back 5 this afternoon up against these 2 Watford wingers.
I think so, and the fact they activate their fullback so well to add to that, so that there will be the potential, or certainly Watford will be looking to create overloads, and you'd imagine down Kieran Brown's side, Ismail Sarr is a hugely talented player in this division, and he's backed up by a pretty good right back as well. So I think I was wondering whether Marlon Pack would come back in. I thought he was rested against Huddersfield because he played a lot of football. I can understand Joe Rawls, who huge fan of Ash. I didn't think Joe had a great game at Huddersfield. I thought he looked a little ring rusty, but I can understand him being in the team to maybe give a little bit more support, for some more legs on that left-hand side to get out and support Kieran Brown. And as you say, I don't think Kieran Brown will be bombing down the touchline. Perry NG might still have that more aggressive behaviour, but I think Kieran Brown will sit in with Nelson and with Flint. And it's important for Nelson and Flint to talk him through the game. Yes, he's been playing wing back, and yes, he's done it well at Livingstone. You look at him and you get the feel of a player. He's obviously a centre-half by trade, so I still think he's playing out of position. He did well at Huddersfield, but it's important that the 3 players immediately around him, Rawls, Flint and Nelson, talk him through the game and make sure he's always in perhaps the most conservative position in order to protect Cardiff City's back line.
Well, you stole my next question there about Joe Rawls, so we'll move on. So we don't envision we're going to get a huge amount of width from the wing-backs this afternoon because they're going to have to stay at home. So it's vitally important that Josh Murphy gives us that width and is able to make those runs in behind the vacant spaces, as you've alluded to, because they are 2 full-backs are going to push on.
Exactly that, and I also look at it as Will Hughes being a crucial player for Watford, in that they will try and keep possession today. Their manager's already said they want to negate the risk of Cardiff winning set plays by controlling the possession of the game, and I think a lot of that will start with Will Hughes, the one sitting midfielder. I think Harry Wilson and Josh Murphy have a huge responsibility to get around him, press him, make it very difficult for him, and make sure that there's not so much quality ball going forward. And then you rightly say Josh Murphy's got a sort of a double agenda, or even a triple agenda. He's got to get up and go beyond Kiefer Moore and get onto anything Kiefer Moore wins, but he's also got to provide width as well. Harry Wilson will maybe hold more of a natural number 10 position, but Josh Murphy, I think, is doing a bit of everything this afternoon. But look for them defending from the front. I'm really keen for them to put pressure on Will Hughes in that holding midfield position.
So we will touch on Joe a little bit then, because I think it's an important point you raised there. So do you envision that Josh is maybe going to play as an out-and-out second striker alongside Kiefer this afternoon and try and play up as high as possible, and then not give him that responsibility to track back in the wide areas and help out Kieran Brown, which is why that inside support from Joe Rawls is obviously so important?
I can absolutely see that happening. Again, I see Josh Murphy maybe coming back and stepping on Will Hughes, but largely playing up top with Kiefer Moore, as you say. Harry Wilson maybe a more natural number 10, and yeah, Joe Rawls. I think Marlon Pack was playing some superb football, apart from, and I said this to you tongue-in-cheek, apart from being responsible for the goal at Bournemouth. I thought he was fantastic that game, and I think he's been playing some of his best football in the Cardiff City shirt. was thinking he was coming back in today, mainly because Joe Rawls, who is a Cardiff City legend, didn't play particularly well at Huddersfield. But the more I thought about it, and with Kieran Brown playing on that left-hand side, Joe Rawls does give you more energy, he gives you more legs, he can double up with Kieran Brown. So yeah, I think that's going to be crucial today. So it's you feel weird saying this for a guy who's been at Cardiff City forever, but I think it's a big afternoon for Joe Rawls this afternoon.
Yeah, it might have been an option himself for the left wing back position. We don't know. Played, of course, left back a little bit earlier in his career. Last question from me for you this afternoon, John. It seems like a real clash of styles this afternoon. Suddenly, Watford have the best defensive record in the division. They've leaped above Swansea in that regard. And Cardiff, all of a sudden, have the second best offensive record behind only Brentford. Now, we've shown what we can do to teams when we score early and take the lead in this game, but equally, I think it's 28 games this season that Watford have held below 2.5 goals. It's going to be a very interesting clash of styles, isn't it?
It's a fascinating encounter. I was looking at the stats, as no doubt you were, this morning. Cardiff City have scored 22 set-piece goals, and that's why Watford were very keen in their press conferences yesterday would talk about minimising set pieces. Watford's run, I thought at the end of January they were falling away a little bit. They had that draw with Coventry, they lost to QPR, I think they drew with Millwall. Since then, 6 wins and 1 loss, and they've scored a lot of goals. There was that 6-0 win at Bristol City. It's a different Watford team to the one we saw back before Christmas at Vicarage Road, because Watford, as is their tradition, changed things up mid-season. So I'm interested to see what they're a team that I think always are very energetic. I thought that year we were in the Premier League, I thought they were the team that probably gave us the most problems, to be honest. I think they're a fast, active, energetic team, like to keep possession of the ball. It's going to be a challenge for Cardiff City. We are going to have percentages of possession down in the late 20s, early 30s again. But Mick McCarthy and his Cardiff City players, Ash, have shown that with that minimum amount of possession, they can be very dangerous.
Thank you very much, John. That is what my esteemed colleague John Donovan thinks ahead of this game. What does Mick McCarthy think, though? This is what he had to say yesterday when he spoke to the assembled press.
It's been unusual, actually, but it's been good for the players and for us as well, because we had the weekend off, and it allowed. It was a real intense schedule. Certainly, as we ended up playing Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Friday, it was good for them all to get a bit of a break, and they're all feeling a bit fresher, a bit sharper, and hopefully that'll benefit us on Saturday. I do think the 2 games where we had, and I keep going back to it, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Friday does make a difference. And I've pretty much kept the same squad, same team of players, and they've really worked hard. But yeah, they've got that mentality of not getting beaten, which is great. And I always say to them, look, if you can't win it, if you don't play particularly well, which we didn't on Friday night, I'm not going to try and sit here and tell you that we did, don't get beat. If you get that mentality, you keep picking points up away from home. That's or even points at home, like we were against Millwall, we 1-0 down, 2-0 down at Barnsley. It's a great attitude to have. It's a great attribute to have as well. Yeah, we've been watching them this morning. We watched a few of them, actually, because we've been following them. We've been playing their opponents, if you know what I mean. So quite often they've been playing who are going to be our opponents. Yeah, really solid, got good players. Some really good players in the team back from the Premier League, and they're in good form. They're in a really good position. So yeah, it's going to be one of our toughest games. This it is really stating the obvious. Yes, we would be if we can beat Watford here, who are the second in the table at the minute. I think they are, and playing well. They've got the ability to grind out those 1-0ers. They don't give much away, Watford, and yet they've got some good flair players. If we can win this game, if we do win this game, well, that'll put us in a great position. And it would also give us a whole lot more confidence beating second in the league. But there's a lot of ifs there. We've played Bournemouth that played, one up front, and actually they played 2 dropped in, which was Preston. Lots of teams have matched us up. I don't see Watford doing it, to be quite honest. Yeah, it does. It can cause a problem against 5 defenders if they've got one stretching your wing and the fullback doubles up. I wouldn't tell you how we do it, but we've coped with that. We can manage that as well. And how about them dealing with us? Because if they're having that, we've got width on the pitch. It's just something they have to cope with. Every single week there comes a different challenge in terms of how somebody's playing, and this is just another challenge. But they are a good team. So we'll see. We'll have a plan.
McCarthy there reflecting on that disappointing 0-0 draw at Huddersfield 8 days ago now, but also looking forward to this afternoon. And yeah, if you can't win the game, don't lose it, and never true words have been spoken. I'm joined by former Cardiff City legend, current, still a legend, but former Cardiff City captain Jason Perry. Jace, 7 changes from the team that lined up against us back in December. Yeah. This is a very different Watford that we saw back then, but also a very different Cardiff City.
Yeah, oh, you're right. I mean, in terms of Watford, I think it's only Norwich that have collected more points than them since Boxing Day. So they're a team in form. They've won 6 of the last 7. But you're right, we are also a team in form. We've enjoyed McCarthy coming in. We're playing a system that we all understand. It suits the players. We're getting the results. So, yeah, they're doing well, but we're doing well too. So it should be a great game. A real good game of 2 teams in form.
As I alluded to there, 7 changes from the 11 that started at Vicarage Road back in December. A couple of those aren't even at the club any longer. The most noticeable from the game last week, though, that sees Nathaniel Shalabar return to the middle of the park. He's served a 2-match suspension, comes back in to really solidify things amongst 2 ball players in Will Hughes and Philip Zinkernagel, a January sign-in for Bordeaux Glimt. And the other changes up front, where João Pedro is able to move back further forward. He played slightly deeper a week ago and takes the place of Andre Gray through the middle. Now, you alluded to their recent run. It's not been spectacular if you take out the 6-0 win over Bristol City, but strange things are happening this season. Yeah. But it's been solid, it's been consistent, and at the back they now look very, very solid, don't they?
Yes, it sounds very familiar, doesn't it? You know, it's the way you're going to build a team. If you want success, you've got to build from the back. You've got to have players that understand about defending, and I keep saying it, enjoy, fall in love with defending, making the blocks. But I fancy Watford to be one of the 3 to get automatic, Brentford and Norwich, the other 2 to go with them. Everybody else is fighting to get into that playoff position. Today, I think you'll find a Watford side who'll like to get down the width. They'll try and get their wide players in. They'll look to try and get overloads 2v1 against our wing backs. But then again, I fancy us on that transition. If we can pass that ball early with quality to our front 3, then we can get down their centre halves. Because as I said, their fullbacks will go forward. So everything is pointing to a good game, but both defences are really on top of their games. It's going to take some good forward play, imagination, good movement, and willing runners. And we have that in the Cardiff City team at the moment.
And it's a real test, isn't it, for the 2 Cardiff wing-backs this afternoon, especially Kieran Brown, you know, nominally a centre-back. Yeah. You know, just talking to my colleague John Donovan, you played a little bit of full-back when you were normally a centre-half in your career. There's no adjusting to pace, is there? And Sarr and Seema have pace in abundance.
Yeah, it's totally different, because when you're playing centre-half, usually the player you're marking has got their back to goal, whereas the winger is facing you. And of course, you've got to tuck in. It'll help both wing backs, because they don't have to tuck in too much, because 3 centre-halves, that's an advantage. But the 2 holding midfield players will play an important role for Cardiff City. You know, Rolls and Volks, which one comes across to help? Or will a centre-half come across? So that communication between the 3 centre-halves and the midfield is imperative. It is so vital. What you don't want to do is leave your wing-backs isolated, because then it can be a long old day.
Said that, it's been a slightly strange week for Cardiff. They haven't had a midweek game for the first time in, I think, 6 weeks off the top of my head. And I think you're going to hear an interview from Josh Murphy in a little bit, and he alludes to it, is that they were finally able to work on some things in training this week. Now, I think we've mentioned it in commentary the last few games, it's been noticeable that even when he's putting Bacuna on, for instance, and you think he's just going to solidify that midfield and go with the 3, he hasn't, because he's tried to get as many minutes as possible in his core shape as he wants. He might have actually, him and Terry Connor this week in McCarthy, he might have actually had some time to work on some subtle nuances this week within that core shape.
Yeah, sometimes as fans we just look at this, you know, but it's what you do in training get you to this stage, and he's not had a lot of time, McCarthy. We've got to look at other managers too have struggled because of the coronavirus, but that again shows how good a manager he is. It's not just about using your time on the training field, it's what you say to players walking from the changing room to that training field, just nailing down little roles, giving them ways that they can feel accountable to, so you know if you're playing well or not, your positioning. And when you get that through a team, you create leaders, because then you and I, if we agree to a plan, you and I can have an argument about the same thing. If we don't have a plan, it's just about opinion. And Cardiff have that now. But that time on the training field, yeah, that's going to be vital. And hopefully we'll see again Cardiff just going a little bit further towards where McCarthy wants them to be. They're winning games. They're not losing games without getting to that level that McCarthy and his staff want them to be.
It's a big old 7 days, isn't it?
Oh,
Stoke in
huge.
midweek, Swansea next week, and then that international break. It really feels like Cardiff will know where they stand for the run-in by the end of these 7 days.
I do. I really do. I think, as you said, Watford, a team in form, real test. Stoke, always a difficult game. And then we play them up the road. So, you know, and that is something that I think Mick McCarthy will make this team know. It's vital that we win that. But I want to win these 2 games too.
Thank you very much. That's professionalism for you, that is, refusing to refer to them by name. I'm gonna start using that, I think. Jason Perry is on commentary with us this afternoon as well. We haven't just brought him in to do this. He will join Mark Denham on commentary in about, what are we looking at now, 12 minutes time. So your weekly reminder, if you're still watching on YouTube, you now need to switch over to the app or the website to pick up the live stream of the game. And as I've alluded to, this is what Josh Murphy had to say yesterday. It's an interesting listen because he doesn't do a great deal of press, quite frankly.
Well, Josh, it must have made a welcome change having a week on the training pitch in the build-up to Watford.
Yeah, I think the way we're playing at the moment has been quite intense, and there's been so many games, so the rest has been welcomed. But it's given us a great chance this week just to work on different things and different aspects of the team's game, which we can improve on, which TC and the gaffer have pointed out. So hopefully we can implement them on Saturday.
Yeah, you've had a chance to work on that on the training pitch, and that change in formation is something that seems to have really suited you well and got you enjoying your football.
Yeah, I think that goes for everyone in the team, you know. I think everyone's relishing different roles in the team, and I feel like we found a way that suits a lot of the players, especially for us forwards at the moment. We're getting a lot more chances, and we probably didn't get that recently. So I think the change of formation and just the way that we're playing at the moment, I think everyone's just happy with it.
A word on TC, and obviously a striker in his playing days. How much of an impact has he had on particularly helping the boys in front of goal?
Massively. First and foremost, his attention to detail with things is second to none, and he takes a lot of time out, not just for the forwards, but for all the different positions. But yeah, he's just always working so hard for especially the strikers to improve on their goals, but just improve on just hitting the target. And we probably struggled in recent times that if you had to have a shot, it had to be a goal. Whereas now it's you don't necessarily have to score, just keep hitting the target and make goalies make saves, and then that's where other players can get rebounds and stuff like that. So just a lot of work's been going on the training pitch to help everyone improve, and I feel like everyone's been doing that.
As for Watford, a tough test lying in wait, but we've got the better of them once this season.
Yeah, everyone knows it's going to be a tough test. You know, they're right at the top. They're going for automatic promotion. So we have a job in hand. We want to be picking up points. We want to be right in them playoff places. So we know it's going to be a difficult game, but hopefully if we stick to our game plan, we can get the 3 points.
And of course, it's the first of 2 successive matches at Cardiff City Stadium. Do you still look forward to those home comforts, even though unfortunately we're not in front of fans?
I just love the stadium. So yeah, it's always great to play at home, and the 2 home games now are welcomed. It's never the same without the fans, you know, and especially with how well we're doing at the moment. If we had them supporting us in the stadium, I'm sure it would be absolutely rocking. So it's disappointing, but hopefully we can keep picking up the results and making them proud at home.
Top 5 in association with the Big Yellow Self-Storage Company.
Kiko has had a chance to do much of that. Comes inside Junior Hoyland on his right foot. Right foot, it goes for the goal. Brilliant goal, Junior Hoyland. It's 3-1, and it's another one of those strikes, not dissimilar really to the goal against Wolves. Lovely finish. And with 11 minutes to go, Cardiff have clawed one back. Not enough time, I wouldn't have thought. But,
it's a glorious effort from Hoyland. You hit the nail on the head. We haven't seen Hoyland with the ball at his feet enough this afternoon. He's been asked to do an awful lot of defending, and as ever has put in a real shift out there.
To purchase a pass for live matchday coverage on Cardiff City TV, visit the official Cardiff City FC website. Once logged into your Bluebirds club account, navigate to Club TV and select Buy Packages. Select the pass you wish to purchase and click Buy Now. Next, fill in your payment details and click Submit Payment. Once your purchase has been successful, you will see this message. You can also check your purchase by clicking the Manage Your Subscriptions button. You now have instant access to live matchday coverage. Visit Club TV and select Live.
Moore's free in the box, 1-0.
Live streams begin 1 hour before kickoff, and recommended desktop browsers are Mozilla Firefox and Google Chrome. You can also watch or listen on the go via the official Cardiff City app. For technical support, email cardifftvsupport@streamamg.com.
80 years might sound like a pretty long time, but if you're an idea, a dream, a belief, then 80 years is just the beginning.
Welcome to Cardiff City TV.
Wilson, a little bit of space for Harry Wilson. Strikes a goal! Oh, what a goal! Morrison, goal!
Well, good afternoon, everybody. Too soon. Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to Matchday Live here. Cardiff City take on Watford in the Welsh capital. Jason Perry is our guest on commentary today. Welcome, Jason. It's always good to have you because when you're on, everybody says we're good. So that's good.
That
so
must be down to you.
It's good to see you. Yeah, 8 games without football. We got a game again. It's odd having a midweek break, wasn't it?
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult for us as supporters, but I think McCarthy and the players would have been delighted to have some time on the training ground. He's done brilliant, and the players with the limited access to each other in terms of training. Training is the part where you really nail down how you're going to play. So he's done that, probably just talking to players, but now to have that length of time to go over things and rehearse certain scenarios. Hopefully we'll see that in today's play, but a real tough challenge in Watford. Looking forward to this. 2 teams in form.
A heck of a challenge for young Kieran Brown up against Ismail Sarr on that flank as well. You know, no bigger test arguably in the Championship.
Yeah, and it's difficult for the centre half. I've done it. When you're centre half, you're used to playing against players with a back to goal, and then suddenly you're playing against players that are running at you. The one advantage he's got is in a back 5, so he can distance himself a little bit nearer to the man he's marking. But it'll be important he gets talking from, well, it'll be Nelson on his side and Ral's 2 in our midfield, because one of them will have to release. I think Watford will push their fullbacks really high and try and get a 2v1 situation, but we can get them on the transition. If we can win it back, a little bit quality forward, and when you've got Murphy and Harry Wilson and you've got the big man up front, Kiefer Moore, then we might be able to get down their centre halves.
How impressed have you been with Kiefer? Because I remember we spoke November time, and it was frustrating almost. Kiefer was dropping so deep, looking for it. He was running horizontally rather than vertically. He wasn't in the penalty area. He's doing all those things now, isn't he? He's doing it well.
Yeah, I mean, Terry Connor's spending a bit of time with him. I was frustrated because he was so honest and wanted to play so much for the team that we were losing his strengths. He was dropping in and there was no runners going beyond. Now, we can still do that to a certain extent, but now you've got runners, because the 210s, going behind him. So we can still turn defenders and we can still go into his feet. But I'm always one of those, I want him between the sticks as much as he can. I think he's different. He's a centre forward. You've got to actually say stop running and stand between those sticks. Give him the service, back of the net.